Offsides on the go-ahead goal in Game 5 that likely cost the Minnesota Wild the series against the Golden Knights. Yet Gustav Nyquist still in the lineup for Game 6. So what has he brought to the table?
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, after learning that Gustav Nyquist is going to be in the lineup for Game 6, he's going to get another chance. We're going to figure out what he has brought to the table through the first 5 games of the series. We'll also talk about the Minnesota Wilds going down to the potential game that will eliminate them from the series with the same lineup we've seen throughout most of the series. And we are going to talk about Eriksson Ek here today because while he has not factored in much at all in the points portion of the series, I think his impact has been massive in what we've seen. So we're going to talk about Eriksson Ek a little bit here today. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, credentialed media member, and boy, I'm hot under the collar right off the bat because of what we heard today, heading into a do or die Game 6 for the Minnesota Wild. And let's put it out there because we've had plenty of comments on YouTube about this, that as this series has unfolded, it has become more and more evident that Vegas just has more horses. Vegas just has more firepower on offense, more depth in the lineup, that they have been able to take the series into their hands because they just have more people to rely on if their top players started off the series quiet. And now Mark Stone scored his first goal of the series. He's getting going. Jack Eichel has been great the last 2 games. You're starting to see those guys take over as the series unfolds, which is a huge concern for the Minnesota Wild because, well, how do you match up with that? And the fact that lower in the lineup, you've got a guy like Brett Howden who has 3 goals in the series, and you don't really have a way to match up with that either. So it's not wrong. And if we take a step back, Vegas was widely picked to win the series for a reason. They're the better team. They're the deeper team. That's not debatable. But I think the thing that has been frustrating is that despite all of that, the Wild have been in these games, and there have been plays here or there that are on the table to be made to steal games and to put you in position to pull off a massive upset in round 1. Vegas has started to control play more, but the Wild, even in Game 5, the Wild had the counterpunch in the 3rd period, and they got the game-tying goal from Matt Boldy. They had Vegas on their heels all the way through that period. Now, they didn't take advantage. We thought they did, but it all came down to a play that likely decided the series. Now, does Vegas, let's just for devil's advocate's sake, let's just say that Gustav Nyquist was not offsides on the go-ahead goal. With Marc-Andre Fleury in net, with Vegas at that point, they're going empty. 100% going empty net in that final minute 15 to try to get the game-tying goal. Would the Wild have been able to keep them off the board for a minute 15? Maybe, maybe not. But you know what? they ended up losing in overtime. So Vegas got him regardless. And you put Vegas in a pressure cooker situation. You put them in a pressure situation if that go-ahead goal is allowed to stand, to where they have to have somebody step up and make a play. And I don't know, there was some kind of weird rallying energy that bringing Marc-Andre Fleury into the game brought for the Minnesota Wilds. They seemed to really tighten things up, allowed just 3 shots on goal for a large portion of that third period. So maybe you are able to ride that momentum all the way through to the end of the third period and hang on for a 3-2 win in regulation to take a 3-2 lead in the series. Maybe we'll never know, because the play that is going to be remembered in this series, I don't even really care what happens in the final game or 2 games of the series. The one that it feels like is going to define this series is Gustav Nyquist being offsides. And call it lack of awareness. I know the start of the play was kind of weird with Hartman and Nyquist on the same side of the ice, and Hartman skates to the other side to enter from there. But you have to have full levels of awareness, where the puck is at all times, where you're at in relation. You have to know when Hartman is bringing the puck into the zone, oh my gosh, I'm almost offsides. I got to get a foot. I got to get a foot out here to keep this as long as I can. There's been a lot of debate since last night's game on social media about if the NHL needs to implement a system where that play is just blown dead before it even happens, or maybe the review should have checked for offsides to begin with. But I will say one thing is Nyquist was close enough to the line to be able to stick his foot out a little bit and stay onside. You have to know where you're at in relation to the blue line at all times. You have to know where the puck is at all times. And this brings me to a big part of a big piece of contention with how this Minnesota Wild lineup is structured. You have guys that just seem like they are a step slow or are a second late in critical spots on this roster in a playoff series. And I'm going to give a large benefit of the doubt to Marcus Foligno, because you use the term vets and you put, I think, all the players into that category. Marcus Foligno's been great this series. He had a bad penalty last night, but his body of work overall has still been great for the series. Ryan Hartman had a penalty last night that was not a great penalty to take. But guess what? If Gustav Nyquist is not offsides, he likely scores the game-winning goal. Hartman's play has been great this series. So there are players who have stepped up to meet the moment. But if you're looking at a stage with the lights, the bright lights shining down, we have players that aren't even in the auditorium right now. And Gustav Nyquist is one of them. And I got to say, it's frustrating to see some of the comments from practice today and to see John Hines say that they're going to give Gustav Nyquist another chance in Game 6, in a game in which if you don't win, there's no other chance to give. So my question becomes, what has Gustav Nyquist brought to this series? I can count it pretty easily for you. In 5 games, Gustav Nyquist has played. Oh, and actually, they went in and they took one away. Gustav Nyquist, through 5 postseason games, no points. He's playing under 12 minutes a game. He has 1 shot on goal He had 2 last night in the postcast for the everydayers that tuned in. He had 2 last night. They took 1 away. So he has 1 shot on goal in 5 games. Oh, but he's a penalty killer. He is really, really good on the penalty kill for the Minnesota Wild. You want me to read off the amount of time that he's played on the penalty kill in these games? Let's go to game 1. Gustav Nyquist played 0 seconds on the penalty kill. 0 seconds on the penalty kill. Okay, so that's pretty easy math right now. Game 2, 0 seconds on the penalty kill. Game 3, 0 seconds on the penalty kill. Game 4, 32 seconds on the penalty kill. Game 5, 20 seconds on the penalty kill. So a guy that you like on your penalty kill has played less than a minute on it in 5 games. And Alex and I talked about this last night on the postcast. The team brought him in fully knowing that he had lost a step, that he was in the midst of a pretty poor season. And you give up a second-round pick to get him, he's giving you nothing right now. It's empty calorie minutes, and you're at a depth deficiency as it is. You can't afford to have players in the lineup that are not giving you a thing. It'd be different if he was playing 2 or 3 minutes on the penalty kill, to where you can say, yeah, he's kind of a penalty kill specialist, but he's not. 50 seconds of penalty kill time in 5 games. 1 shot on goal. And with guys like Matt Boldy, Joel Eriksson Ek, Freddie Gaudreau, Marcus Foligno, Marcus Johansson's even getting more penalty kill time than Gustav Nyquist. And so it feels like a spot in the lineup. You're just kind of giving up. And in the postseason, mistakes are magnified. And guess what? Not sticking a foot out to stay on the blue line when you enter in and just kind of peeling around and just coasting in probably cost the Wild the series. Be different if he had 4 or 5 goals. You could say, yeah, it's a tough break, but we'd like his chances to get something done here in Game 6 to keep the season alive. I like his chances to play 12 minutes, and that's about it. So, I mean, I feel like Liam Ogren could probably do that. I feel like Vinny Hinostroza could probably do that. But, coaches win or lose with their guys. And it's starting to kind of seem like Gustav Nyquist is one of John Hines' guys, not Bill Guerin's. We probably had it wrong. When the trade was made. Starting to seem like one of John Hines' guys. Not only that, but it sounds like most of the lineup is going to be unchanged heading into Game 6, which is just spectacular in a do-or-die game. So we'll take a look at what we can expect from the lineup as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Game Time. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, it's next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer, And with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. One of my favorite features about Game Time is their all-in pricing shows the upfront cost before you even hit the checkout. So you know exactly what you are going to be spending on tickets without getting blinded by hidden fees. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. We'll have a postcast for you coming up on Thursday night with a normal game time, 6:30 in the Central Time Zone. The Wild will either force a Game 7 or their season will be over. So we'll have a postcast for you after the game is done, and then whenever the season does end, it's going to probably be a moment of hibernation for me because we're starting to run out of candle here as we get towards the end of this series. If the Wild do end up winning the series, I'm going to have to go buy some candles. But hey, that's why we do it. That's the grind. I knew what I signed up for. Coming into this, it's just, 3-4 hours of sleep a night is not a lot. The Minnesota Wild, it sounds like, are going to go into Game 6 with basically the same lineup that they had in Game 5, which just, again, I don't know what you're getting from different parts of this lineup. And look, I will say too, we just finished talking about players not giving you a thing. There are certainly a few others that I think just are in need of a little bit of a switch in the lineup. So the big talker throughout the series, and it was one thing, early in the series, was the decision to put Freddie Gaudreau higher in the lineup for defense over Marco Rossi. And I can understand the thinking in trying to have something you can deploy more defense throughout the lineup, whatever it ended up being. But Freddie Gaudreau is one of 5 players on this roster that have no points through the first 5 games of the series. And Freddie Gaudreau has 2 shots on goal in this series. And I just, here's what I'll say. We knew coming in that you had probably 4.5 to 5 players that are legitimate top 6 players. So you were always going to be behind the 8 ball in that regard. Ryan Hartman has bumped his way up. I have no problem with that because Ryan Hartman has played great in the series. And we saw in the third period, John Hines went to the line blender. He, at one point, deployed Kirill Kaprizov with Marco Rossi and Marcus Foligno. I have no problem with Marcus Foligno getting some looks higher up in the lineup because, again, he's been great in the series. Matt Boldy, Eriksson Ek, and Matt Zuccarello got a look in the third period. Matt Zuccarello has had a couple of good games in this series, but he has been a little quiet. And that's another player that you need more from. You needed more from coming into this series, but he has not been able to provide it. So you take Freddie Gaudreau out. I feel like if you would go something, and I get Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Boldy because that's been the best line in the series. That's been That has been the wrecker line like we thought they would be. But that second line, it just doesn't seem like they are able to find a combination that works. And this probably speaks more to what is going to be one of the big questions that needs answering in the offseason is top six talent. There are a bunch of guys that are just kind of filling those spots that you can cycle through and you get a lot of the same from all of those guys. And that's, I think, the reason that Vegas is where they're at in the series. Their top guys haven't done a ton until the last couple of games, but they have the depth. They have the depth advantage by a large margin. The Wild have a bunch of guys that can give you defense, but no offense. Vegas has both. Vegas has players that can give you offense and defense. And the Wild need to start trying to find more of those guys. They need to find more of those players that can give you both, as opposed to one or the other, or in many cases, none. So as far as the second line goes, honestly, if you're going to keep Kaprizov, Boldy, and Ek together, I would probably go, and we have not seen this line combination used at all. But it was a sneaky good one in a small sample size last year. Go Rossi, Zuccarello, and Hartman. Or flip Ek and Rossi. I don't really care, but are you at this point more comfortable with what you're getting from Marcus Johansson in a top six role, or what you're getting from Marco Rossi in 10 minutes a night? Marco Rossi has 2 more goals, has 2 more points than Johansson does. And again, it's kind of the same thing. The shots on goal, Johansson's got 3 in the series in 4 games. Yes, I know he brings the speed element, but it boils down to me. You need goals. You need goals to contend in this series. The defense has been fine, but the defense has also been under siege the entire series. The Wild have faced the most shots on goal in the postseason by a large margin, mainly because the offense has not been able to measure up. They've had a few games where they've been able to jump on Adin Hill, but in the games where things have really kind of been stretched out, chance after chance after chance, and you've got guys that just cannot capitalize on it. So that's going to have to be a huge point of emphasis in the offseason is you have to find a way to get a competent second line out there. I don't care who, I don't care how, I don't care what it takes to get that figured out, but that has to be your number one priority for the offseason for like the 5th year in a row. You have to get the second line figured out because you can beat teams. You can beat teams in the regular season because there are a lot of teams that have barely one line. But in the postseason, you cannot stack up against a team and expect to beat them with one line working. Can't do it. Absolutely cannot do it. So as far as the line combinations go, I would imagine we'll see basically the same thing, which is it's disappointing. I wanted to finish by talking about Eriksson Ek a little bit, and I'll do a little Brock Faber as well. 3 combined points for the 2 of them, but I'm not super worried about it because those 2 have been doing heavy lifting in other areas. So we will finish by taking a look at Brock Faber and Eriksson Ek and the defensive efforts that they have put in this series. That's coming up as we finish today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes it so easy to throw a futures bet down If you think the Minnesota Twins are going to win the division, you can do that. You can wait and see how things play out as the season unfolds. NFL season is going to be here before we know it. You can bet on the Minnesota Vikings to win the division, the NFC North. You can do that, or you can sit and watch Game 6 and you can live bet during the second half. FanDuel makes everything so easy. And if you head to FanDuel.com right now, you can cash in. If your first $5 bet wins, $250 in bonus bets coming your way. So head to FanDuel.com right now to claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. As I mentioned, we'll have a postcast for you. It might be the last one of the season on Thursday, tomorrow. So we'll have a postcast for you after the game, a 6:30 start. So we'll probably, if it is the last one of the season, we'll probably do a little postmortem before we dive into that. And I'm not going to set up the off-season content plan. I'm not going to put that out until we get there. Like, let's just do one thing at a time. Plenty of time for that to happen. So we'll talk about that after the season is finished, whenever it does. If you look at the statistics, Eriksson Ek and Brock Faber have been quiet from a points perspective, but I'm here to tell you that they have done plenty to impact this series as things have unfolded. Because they're going up against some pretty tough matchups. Like, it's just incredibly tough matchups. Eriksson Ek has been locking horns with Jack Eichel all series, and he has more than held his own. He does have 3 assists, but in the series, he's winning faceoffs at a 54.8% clip. And up until the last couple of games, Jack Eichel had 1 assist. Now he has started to impact the game a little more over the last couple of games, which was kind of expected, that you repeatedly bash in the front gate. Eventually, it's not going to be able to hold up. And Ek has done an admirable job of keeping Eichel off the board and others. His Corsi numbers too, above 50%, has helped that top line really take a lot of the pressure off of this offense. Now, they haven't gotten help from many in the rest of the lineup. But another point that was brought up in the postcast last night too, that I want to just kind of reinforce for those that didn't catch it last night, is that by having Eriksson Ek on that top line, he's taken a lot of the attention, which has allowed for Kirill, Kaprizov, and Matt Boldy to do their things. That's a huge part of the reason that they have both had 5 goals in this series already. So it's not glamorous. It's not glamorous for Eriksson Ek, but I think we are seeing 100% his impact, and it is one that the Wild desperately needed, one that the Wild desperately missed last year, or 2022-2023, when they were last in the playoffs. It's a grimy, dirty kind of roll up your sleeves and expect to get your hands dirty. So he has been, I think he's been fine. It's just that you're asking him to do a lot of things that don't lead to flashy plays. And the same for Brock Faber. You look at the numbers for Faber in the postseason here. They're not going to be great. Again, because you're going toe-to-toe with the top players on the Vegas Golden Knights. You're going toe-to-toe with Eichel, Stone, you name it, and you're trying to keep them quiet. And he just continues to get high amounts of minutes. The Brodin-Faber D pairing had an expected goals of 59.9%. And a Corsi for percentage of 53.3%, which was tops amongst all of the D pairings that the Wild deployed in the game. And if they played 19 minutes, 39 seconds together, they had an on-ice expected goals of 0.433 and an on-ice expected goals against of 0.29, double what the opponents were doing. So it's not going to be, you're not going to put up pretty numbers, but you're being asked to absorb a lot of what Vegas is throwing at you. And Faber, I think, has done a really good job of that in this series. Would it be nice to have more points? Sure. But I just, he has had plenty of an impact in this series, I think. Other than this is one of those like beyond the box score type things that if you're paying attention to what he's doing, he's locking people up. He had one play where it was him and Mark Stone, I think, coming up the ice in last night's game on the left side of the zone, and Faber just erased him. He just erased him along the boards, and a situation where if Stone gets by Faber, he probably has a wide open walk to the net. Faber just straight up erased him. And those are the types of plays, those are the big boy plays that you need to be successful in the postseason. So those guys have had massive impacts. It's not like it's not a situation like some of the others in the lineup where you don't know what you're getting. Like, you know what you're getting from those two. It's just that the points have not also been there in this series as well. So, look, I'll finish today's episode by just talking about the perspective again. That and I don't want this to come off as copium, because it's not. But Vegas has the depth. Vegas has started to really kind of break down this Wild defense. The Wild defense has held up way better than I thought it would, but the cracks are starting to form, and it's about the time that the water starts to come in through the cracks. And the fact that this series has been as close as it has, I think is a testament to the fortitude of this Wild team. But we're seeing the limits of that pushed, and now you have suffered two cataclysmically heartbreaking losses back-to-back games. Don't be surprised. The Wild are either going to rise to the moment and are going to keep their season going by saying we're just not done today. They're going to either do that, or the dam is going to break. And if Vegas can get this going early in Game 6, you could see a breakage in this game, just because of the amount of energy and the amount of effort and all of those things that have gone into this series so far, and it just hasn't been enough. It hasn't been enough in 3 of the games, and that's unfortunate. So we'll have a look at Game 6 for you coming up tomorrow, with a look at some of the things that need to change. We pretty much know what they are, though. So we'll take a look at some Game 6 notes for you ahead of puck drop tomorrow. But that's our episode here for today. Appreciate everybody tuning in, as you have throughout the course of the postseason. Make sure to hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube as you head out, so you don't miss out on any new episodes, and subscribe as well. We've got you covered every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.